people are in many cases trying to monetize something just too directly, but they're not taking in like a broader picture or thinking about, okay, what could work in synergy with what I'm doing.
How would you say that you can do that with and still keep a focus, right? Because a lot of people, there's two schools of thoughts. I'm with yours, right? And the reality is that most entrepreneurs, influencers that are growing more become accidental entrepreneurs. And one of the big things that they need to be careful on doing and balancing is having focus and doing their thing, but having that vision, right? Because they could be like, hey, this is making me $5,000 a month, but man, over here I'm getting 10,000 a month just for this one thing. And being able to kind of do both, but not lose focus, and then go, oh, but one thing, I got this one off, and now you're doing, hey, I started 14 different things, and now none of them are working.
Right. I think it's tricky for sure. I think listening is a big one. I think, especially we can be our own worst enemies. I think, and we've both done masterminds and things like that where we're getting other experts and people around us that are smarter than us, and admitting, hey, I don't know everything. I know what I know, but I don't know everything, so I'm going to ask you what you're good at. And really listening to what's going on and to get advice from other top level people. I think that was always an easy way for me to kind of to figure some things out that I wasn't as good in. But especially with like social media, for example, you'll see people that I have friends that a particular friend, I won't mention his name, but he has got a big following, and for the longest time people were DMing him asking him for a certain type of merchandise, like merch. And no, I don't want to do merch, not going to do merch. But after a while it was like, all right, so if we added up all these people that would have spent these $25 at this point, I understand there's certain cases where you don't want to do that for some reason, for branding or whatever, but at the same time it's like, if you're struggling that much, but there's just this thing right there that in many ways, like look at some of the biggest brands in the world, merchandise, right? Like Nike or something, like people are walking billboards for Nike because they've found a way to get people to want to wear their stuff, or whatever brand. So something like that where it's going to help you instead of hurt you in many ways, as long as the merchandise is good and people want it, should be something you want to incorporate, especially if you're literally getting people asking you for something that doesn't even exist. That's probably a good sign in most cases. So I think being able to see those situations and go, okay, this, evaluate the opportunity and make a decision sometimes.
So with all that happening, and like you said, merch is a really good one. Merch and just influencers being able to kind of build brands now. Where do you see that, like, how do you see that evolving? Do you think that everyone is almost like the self-made entrepreneur now, and like people will take less jobs and there'll be all this more influenceive stuff, and there'll be more just random brands instead of bigger Under Armours or whatever? Or do you think they're going to start scooping it and making private lines? Like, where do you see all that?
I think there's always a tipping point with everything. I think you get to a boiling point where it's kind of something becomes so saturated that you're like, all right, we've got 8 million influencers now in the world, and it's like, so everyone's an influencer. So it's like it kind of pushes that next line of evolution. Like, what's the next thing from there? Does it go the opposite direction? Nobody wants followers anymore. You want to be private and you want to do something else. So I don't think we're there yet, but I think we totally could get to that point where it's like complete saturation in particular spaces like that.
Do you think we're in a bubble?
Probably not quite yet. I mean, there's probably a social media bubble going on in many ways.
Especially in Venice.
Yeah.
Definitely
in certain areas for sure. Oh yeah, like even like take an LA or New York or something, or wherever there'd be a concentration of those people, absolutely. But like worldwide, probably not. But it could definitely get to that point where like everybody's built this gigantuan following, and it's like, all right, we're all in for influencers now. There would have to be another tier of something to really make it sustainable, really. So
what are you working on right now that you're super excited about?
ShipChain's a big one, but even beyond ShipChain, just the blockchain space in general is really excited me, and that does go parallel with cryptocurrency, but it is a different thing. Because blockchain, as people may or may not know, is the technology. Cryptocurrency is literally the currency that powers some of the technology. So that's been an exciting space to see. I actually had a friend in college, this is back in 2011, I want to say, that I lived with at one point after college, and he was mining Bitcoin in the room next to me. They were like 2 cents at the time. And he's just mining away. He's like, you should probably like get some or something. And he's like, I think it could be big at one point. So I had like, I think it was about 150 Bitcoin on a thumb drive back when it was a .dat file on a thumb drive. That was the only way to use them. And I moved 8-9 times now between Boston and LA, lost the thumb drive. So it's in a landfill somewhere. So that's like, at this point, that's close to $1 million. Or a lot of money was on the drive, yeah. Or well, it was less than $1 million, but it was a lot, yeah. At one point, it was almost $1 million. So,
it was easily almost.
Yeah.
Oh, probably $1 million.
Yeah,
easily $1 million at one point.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
So it's always been on my radar. So then when I heard about Ethereum, which is like the next kind of evolution of that in many ways, which has gotten a lot of press and traction over the last year, I was like, okay, not missing it this time. So I was really, and it wasn't even so much from like a monetary or making money standpoint. It was just pure fascination with what the technology was doing. And wow, you can have this immutable ledger online that you can't change, that it's almost like a torrent file that's spread amongst all these people that can't be changed from one central party. And I think I really hope we're going to see a lot of change, like in anything from like voting, something that like you want to be like rock solid, unhackable, stuff like that. Just the technology in general that could be improved through it.
What do you see ShipChain in 2019?
Yeah, I mean, it's been really exciting. That freight and logistics is arguably the largest industry in the world.
Yeah.
Revenue-wise and other things, but so it's in a really large space. The trick is adoption, but it's as the product is being finished probably by January. So we're still kind of in the building phase.
You've got some big players on your team. What's the goal with you guys in ShipChain? Is it to try to get acquired? Is it to try to just get it out to market?
Get it out to market and just get as many big companies using it as possible. Like a Walmart, for example, we'd love to have someone like that using it. Like trucking in the U.S., but then also the intermodal freight, which is like shipping a boat and then getting onto a train and a truck, just kind of tracking the containers all around.
Is there any way that the people watching can get involved?
Just check it out, shipchain.io, and if you work at a company that does trucking and ships anything, there's definitely a way to work with us. So check it out, the site, yeah.
Well, dude, I think that's it. I think we've kind of like knocked out all the majority of things that we wanted to talk about with influencer stuff. Any last words? Anything else?
No, nothing really. I mean, I think one quick piece of advice for influencers is that I think one thing is a lot of influencers they're looking at all these crazy systems and things to how do I figure out how to be good on social media and get a lot of followers and do this. The really stupid, simple piece of advice is like be a good person, because if you're meeting people and you're an asshole or you're not somebody that anyone wants to be around and you're like rude to people, and like I've had meetings with like people with 10 million followers and big huge accounts and they're like disrespectful to a waitress. Yeah. And you're like, come on, like why do you have to do that? Now I don't like you. Now I don't want to work with you. So like just the stupid, simple advice of being a good person in all situations and being somebody you want to be around too. Yeah. It's like don't be like something that you like repels, disgusts you. Mm-hmm. So just something like that. It's always on my mind. So I'm like, whenever I see it, I'm like, man, you're rooting something great here. So
dude, I could not agree more. Like you should not get the vanity metrics because you have a bunch of followers. Yeah. If anything, you should be excited and try to make followers like something that you can make an impact on. Yeah. I think that's the other thing. All right, well, thanks for coming, man.
Cool, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
That's it for us today, and we will see you guys on another episode of Influence Engine.